Hello everyone, a very warm welcome and good evening to all of you in today's webinar. So today's webinar is organized by APM Southeast Branch titled as Time Honored Wisdom African Teaching for VUCA Leaders. So I'm Abdul, your host for today's webinar, and I'm looking very forward to this session because we will talk about VUCA leaders teachings and how it impact leadership in project management. So there are some housekeeping rules which I want to share with all of you that it's an 1 hour session. So first 30-40 minutes will be the speaker talk and last 10 to 20 minutes will be question answer session. So currently all of you are in listening mode. If you have any questions, you can write it down on the question tab. At the end of the session, I will ask all of your questions to our speaker. Uh, Secondly, the session is recording, so the recording will be available on APM YouTube channel. You can subscribe it as well, and the presentation will be available on the slide share, which you can easily access on APM Southeast branch page on APM website after 4 or 5 days of this session. So it will count if you are logged in on APM, then it will count on your CPD if you are a member. So it's 1 hour CPD session as well. So I am very thankful to our speaker Mounina who take time out for this session. So Mounina is basically an author of International Perspective in Leadership, Challenges and Opportunities. So personally, as a project manager, one of my favorite topic in the field is leadership in project management. So Mounina has more than 13 years of experience as a project manager, mainly dealing with IT projects, and she is a PMP certified project manager as well. Currently, she is joining us from France and serving as a Project Management Institute PMI France chapter lead. So now I will hand over to Mounina so we can formally start this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abdul, for introducing me so greatly. If I can share my screen now, that will be great. I can see in the screen that you are already answering to the first question, which is what do you see as an essential trait for vocal leadership? Now we can start the presentation. Can you see my screen correctly?
Yes.
Excellent. Welcome everyone. Welcome to a world where unpredictability is the new norm, where paradox like unemployment and high skill shortage coexist. Here, the traditional boundary between unemployment and entrepreneurship blurred, and yesterday competitors may become tomorrow's partners. This constantly evolving world, defined by VUCA acronyms, has become more and more tangible for more and more people since the COVID-19 pandemic, influencing our relationship to work, our way of working, living as family, and in communities. In this context, I invite you to explore with me VUCA. V stands for volatility, which refers to the speed and scale at which change occurs. Characteristics include rapid change, ephemeral changes of indeterminate duration, making it increasingly difficult to stay updated and leading to more frequent reassessment. The U stands for uncertainty. The present is difficult to understand and the future impossible to predict. It characterized by the unexpected being expected and considered normal. Outcome can only be understood in the hindsight. The C stands for complexity. Causes and effects are replaced by interdependence characteristics, including having too much element in motions to track or to understand alone, necessitating swift decision making. Finally, the A stands for ambiguity, meaning that opposites occur simultaneously, creating confusion. It's characterized by multiple viewpoints and an abundance of information that makes things unclear. While VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity, is it its opposite preferable? Stability instead of volatility? Certainty instead of uncertainty? Simplicity over complexity and clarity over ambiguity? And if one were to create an acronym for these states, it could be SC squared, even though it's not as smoothly articulated as VUCA, isn't it? So, mastering volatility requires a shift in mindset, meaning embracing curiosity and reflexivity. Tackling uncertainty demands creativity paired with resilience. Leading amidst complexity calls for collaboration and leveraging collective wisdom. And then flourishing in ambiguity combines the virtues of humility and self-assurance. These competencies are echoed in the time-tested practices of all traditional African leadership, which we'll explore. Ralph Stockdill, a well-known researcher on leadership, once said that there are as many definitions of leadership as there are authors who have tried to define the concept. This highlights the idea that leadership can be defined from various perspectives. We will delve into African leadership, focusing on the leader of the sacred kingship of antiquity and the Middle Ages, who laid the foundation of power and authority in Africa and the world. Sacred African leadership rests on two pillars, the temporal and the spiritual, representing the human power and the power of the religion. Temporal leadership values include humanness, courage, respect, and orality. These values guided ancient African leaders in building empires and kingdoms that stood for centuries. Now, I want to highlight two paramount values from an African perspective: respect and orality. Respect is crucial in any African social interaction. And great leaders extend respect to all individuals, especially the elderly, as age is deemed more important than hierarchical position. The wisdom of the elderly is highly valid, as the saying goes, what an old person can see sitting down, the youth cannot see standing up. In ancient African, spoken words carry as much weight as written ones. Being human in the ancient African context means honoring your words. Thus, your credibility depends on how well you honor what you said. The Filani said that words are like water. Once spilled, they cannot be gutted up. They also say that words are like winds. Their source never dries up and their container never fills up. In the African viewpoint, unspoken words take on a life on their own that anyone cannot no longer control. No word is spoken without reason. And in this culture of oral tradition, everyone knows that words do not fly away, but on the contrary, remain as visible as the track of a path one has made. It can happen in some cases that a word becomes the source of conflict. Great leaders' words are like swords. This is why they excel in the art of rhetoric and carefully consider their words. As Nelson Mandela emphasizes, the tribal chief was always the last to speak. Moreover, sacred knowledge is passed down through orality. As a well-known Malian writer, Amadou Hampâté-Bâ noted, in Africa, an elderly person who dies is a library that burns. When exploring the spiritual part of African leadership, we find a strong connection between power and religion. In Dogon tradition, for example, the king is called Dogon. He is the representative of Ama, the Almighty God, with the mission to connect heaven and earth. The rituals of sacrifice are part of African traditional leaders' day-to-day life. It is a mode of realizing any project, healing, victory, negotiation, or decision making. One of the most famous leaders of West Africa was the Emperor of Mandingo, Sundiata Keita, who established the Kurukan Fuga, the constitution of Manding based on humanness. The Kurukan Fuga was founded in 1236. This charter recognized the sanctity of human life and physical integrity, advocates social peace in diversity, the integrity of the motherland, the abolition of slavery, freedom of expression and trade. Now, I invite you to focus on the three principles of Kurukan Fuga. The first one is sinankunya, or joking cousinhood. It allows playful teasing that promote open communication and conflict resolution. The goal of this principle is to foster social cohesion and harmony among different surnames and ethnic groups. For instance, the surname Tounkara and Keita are Sinanku. And under this tenet, a Tounkara can say anything to a Keita, who will consider it as a joke while taking into consideration the lesson or the main message behind it. Moreover, whenever there is a conflict between a Tounkara and any other person, anyone with the surname Keita can intervene and resolve that conflict peacefully. Next, the principle of Tanamanyonya fosters mutual respect among diverse groups, prevents harm, and promotes an obligation to help each other, thus creating a pact of reciprocal solidarity. For instance, the ethnic group. I can hear some noise, please. For instance, the ethnic group Bozo and Dogon are Tanamanyo. And under this tenet, a Dogon traveler without accommodation can look for a Bozo family to host him. And the Bozo will have then to host the Dogon for the necessary time required. The third principle is Nyamakalaya. The Nyamakala include various groups whose societal function include speaking the truth to the leaders, providing advice and taking responsibility for others. This principle acts as a safeguard, allowing leaders to receive feedback on their action, benefit from honest advice, and evolve positively. In our today ever evolving, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, we are navigating a transformative era. Disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and blockchain, along with global forces like climate change and diversity, are reshaping our lives, workplace, and community at an unprecedented pace. And what was unquestioned just months ago is no longer valid, especially in a post-COVID world. Moreover, emerging technologies like large language model and generative artificial intelligence application render specific skill set obsolete. In top of all of that, the democratization of global knowledge ensure that access is no longer limited to the privileged one. In this context, global leaders are increasingly driven to explore new leadership practices in response to these challenges and opportunities. It's no longer a choice. It's a matter of adapting or facing obsolescence. As the world leaders, you can learn valuable lessons from African leadership, emphasizing humanness, respect, orality, by balancing being professional and human, treating all the individual equally, disregarding hierarchical position, origin, background, and social status, and honoring oral commitment as one as the written one. Being a leader involves much more than technical skills. It requires substantial human skills as well. I worked within two distinct types of large companies. In the first one, my first day in the company, while I was in a relatively junior role, the CEO entered in our office and shook my hand, introducing himself. My name is John Smith. Nice to meet you. I didn't realize he was the CEO at the time. And then he went on to greet my colleague, ask about his family, and then left with a smile. It was only afterward that my colleague informed me, the man who just greeted you is our CEO. In that company, there was a great work climate and the workers were happy. In the second types of company, the department director never greeted me. I was the only one to say hello every time I saw him. And sometimes he didn't even bother to reply to my greetings. And I can tell you that the work climate in that company was terrible. Why? Because the leadership lacked humanness. This ability to see others as fellow human beings and to have consideration for them. Everything is linked to leadership. When any human organization is fortunate enough to have great leaders, they create a work climate that spurs creativity and innovation. That leads us to the second lesson, which is treating all individuals equally prevent injustice. My friend is an expert in her field and travels around the world on business trips. However, she's often mistaken for someone else when she travels with her colleague. She told me that clients frequently assume her colleague is the expert they are waiting for. And when she presents the product to the client, they direct their questions to her colleague, who then has to redirect them to her, saying, Binta, I think these questions are for you. My friend really believed that this happened because she is a black woman in her technical field. Moreover, during her first meetings with clients, she might have to wait in the reception area for a while. The client often walk past by her and inform the receptionist that the person they are waiting for must be late. From my personal experience, I sometimes got into some similar troubles. Some colleagues would state things in conversation like, but Mounina is black. Or they would state, do you know that in Africa, when I touch a chess game placed in the meeting room? Or sometimes they would imitate my accent and everyone would laugh. Many times I went to the management to speak out against this behavior and they would say it was a joke. This continued until the day a colleague said to me in a meeting with more than 50 people, including managers and leaders, you are a slave because you are black. And most of the people in the room laughed. That was the moment I decided to speak up. I told all the attendees, including the manager, that this was the last time I will tolerate such comments and that the next time I would record the incident and go to the police with the recording to file a complaint, hoping it would bring some peace to my colleague from diverse origin and background as well as myself. However, after this episode, it was already too late for me. because I realized in my heart that I could no longer endure such a toxic work environment. Guess what? A couple of months later, I resigned. Unfortunately, in many workplaces where there is weak leadership, you will have injustice. Why? Because leadership is not for everyone. Being a leader involves human values. You cannot lead human in a vacuum. This leads to the second value, which is respect. As the saying goes, he who doesn't know a grave's coldness doesn't give a dead the respect. The lack of consideration for oral commitment is undermining leaders' credibility. In our Western world, for example, what is considered is what is written. And many leaders tend to do the opposite of what they say. Thus, this is leading to the global leadership crisis in which people no longer believe in leaders. This is true in organizations as well as in nations. For instance, during the COVID pandemic, there was a shortage in the workplace, especially in the healthcare system. There was a leader who, to attract new workers, would tell them that after their first month, they would get a salary raise of 10% if the work was well done. Then the workers will do all of their best. And after the month of work, they would go to organize a meeting with the leaders for their rise in salary. The leader would then say, I never said that. The person would eventually leave their work because they lost confidence in the leadership. Finally, you can make a difference by creating an environment of psychological safety for all, establishing effective conflict resolution system, and taking responsibility for others. Embracing ancient African leadership values such as humanness, courage, respect can help you and your organization navigate crises effectively in our turbulent, globalized, and multicultural world. In our VUCA world, resilience, in my point of view, can be attained only collectively. Individualism is possible when services and institutions are working normally. Otherwise, we will have to focus on each other in total solidarity. As Martin Luther King said it, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters. Otherwise, we will have to die together like idiots. Thank you. So now I propose you to look at the multiple questions to test our understanding of what was discussed. Can you share your screen, please, Ellie? Excellent. So the first question it is, VUCA advocates for a world of stability, certainty, simplicity, and clarity over volatility. uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Is it true or false? Is it a word of stability, certainty, simplicity, and clarity, or a word of volatility? Please answer to the question. So, excellent. If we can pass to the next question, if everyone answer, or we can wait for. Excellent. So, I can see that many people, two people put true and the others one. Free now. If the other people who can answer to the question, I believe the answer is false. Why? Because VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So it is false. Thank you so much. And let's pass to the next question to see if we understand everything. So the second question is, Ralph Stockdale said that there are as many definitions of leadership as there are authors who have tried to define the concept. I believe we talked about that. More people to answer to the question. All right, I can see 5 people choose true over 4 who choose false. The answer was true because there are many definitions of leadership as there are authors who have tried to define the concept. Now, let's go to the next question, please. Which of the following best describe the uncertainty in VUCA? Excellent. More and more people are answering. Yes, I can see that almost everyone find the good answer, which is the present is hard to understand and the future unpredictable. Let's go to the next question, please. I hope I'm giving more enough time for people to answer. Ambiguity in VUCA framework refer to. Excellent. Well done. Yes, it is the coexistence of multiple conflicting viewpoints. Excellent. Let's go to the next question, please. Which African leadership value emphasizes the importance of spoken words? Excellent. I see more and more people answering. Well done. Great. All right. I believe we can pass to the next question before starting to answer the question from the audience. The principle of Sinankunya aim to which one? Foster social cohesion through playful teasing or establishing a clear hierarchy or reduce importance of oral tradition. Well done. There are more and more people choosing the first response, which is the right one. Let's go to the next question if there are any. Excellent. Yes. How did the Kurukan Fuga Charter advocate for social peace? By promoting individualism through the sanctity of human life and diversity, or by discouraging freedom of expression? Let's wait a few seconds, and then I believe that is the last question for the pool. And if there is any question, I'm open to answer to them. Well done, excellent. 18 people answered the yes. Excellent. And now, what are your key takeaway from today's event? Abdul, there is any question from the audience in the chat? I cannot hear you. Can you put your microphone on, please?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, now
Sorry,
it's
my
fine.
microphone was turned off. So there are, thank you so much for this session and the quiz at the end. So I think after a long time I am giving a multiple choice question quiz. So there are few questions, so which I will ask you. So one question was, for example, as a project leader, if you are in a leadership position in a project and you are uh, implementing the VUCA teachings in your project or creating a VUCA environment, what other communication traits you think should the leader have so he can easily implement the VUCA teachings in the project?
Yes, the teaching from African leadership in terms of communication is that in any communication you are having in people, especially in crisis times, like in VUCA environment that we are currently in, it's important to take the human part of it to really communicate as a human being to other people. That means to have humility when you are talking to people and to show them consideration when you are communicating to people. For example, there can be two different examples. Someone can, a good leader, for example, if he has to take hard decision that will have impact on people's lives, for example, he will really communicate with empathy with the person and to show that he went through all the possible solutions that could be taken in order to preserve the person as a human being. In any communication, it can be in a meeting, in any, you have to have the human touch that show people that they are not only a number or that they are not just a worker, but they are a human, and a human who has its part in the companies or in the organization, whose is valuable for everyone, and for the sake of, because of the sake that the person is a person, he has to be important as anyone else.
Yeah,
I hope it answered the question.
yeah, thank you. So there's another question from Simon. So what do you think that Western leaders should adopt from the African wisdom?
The system that I'm talking about, it was established in 1236, and it is really a very old system. But until now, in some countries in Africa, like West Africa, Mali, for example, this system still is in place between people. For example, if I if we talked about reciprocal solidarity as in an organization, we should be able to apply this solidarity among the team members, for example, and to be kind to the people with who we are working. Is not only because we are professional. Everything that counts is to work together, and after work, if the person has a problem, for example, I don't want to deal with it because he is here to work and he has to do his work. The goal is to create a kind of um, work environment that really everyone want to be in this environment, and where there is a chance for everyone to evolve as a human being, to evolve. For example, if a person wants to do something, it has to be taken into consideration. And once again, the fact to treat people equally and to give respect to anyone. We talked about humanness, about the courage, about to respect, and also about honoring oral commitment. When you say something to someone, you have to do it, even if is it not written. You can't just say to someone because is I will say what I want because I want to write it, as some leaders do, and then they will say that they didn't say it. And this really bad for the trust in the organization, which is really important for success.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So there are like another question. So how can leaders make a balance between embracing the opportunities presented by VUCA and managing the associated risk in the project?
Yes, and for example, in VUCA environment, it is more about managing risk in a day-to-day level. There are techniques like in order to really manage VUCA times, because if, for example, we take one of the component which is volatility. In a volatile environment, you have to be able to make decision quickly, because you don't if things change every time. For example, we can say that it was at, for example, the VUCA, when we were in the COVID-19 times. Sometimes there were contradictory decision. Even sometimes they want to take one decision and they took the another one. I'm talking about the government, and also it wasn't some things that you have to take one decision, and maybe you will have other information, you can change your decision. In terms of complexity, for example, in big project which there are a lot of complexity, the main way to deal with this kind of project is to really enhance the communication, and then to take into account um, human skills. Like, if I am in a complex environment and I have to know how I deal people, I can deal with people from different various part of the world. I can deal with people with various a diverse group, and how I talk to them, how I can use. For example, I saw that some people are talking about um, emotional intelligence, having empathy for people, for example, and and tell them what you want to do, and show them the vision that it involves the human part. What can you say to people that make them motivated, even there is a hard problem to navigate, for example?
Right. So there's last question and then we have also session time. And so how can project leaders effectively navigate the volatility aspect of VUCA in today's rapidly changing business environment.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So how can project leaders effectively navigate the volatility aspect of VUCA in today's rapidly changing business environment?
Yes, my proposition is I talked about three components that for me is important in order to navigate. I talked about the fact to treat people equally, because even if there are some problem we are in a crisis mode, the team members should be treated equally. And I talked also about the importance of being human. Uh, Generally, when there are some problems, we are navigating. For example, I talked about the fact that there are large language models, and there are intelligence artificial tools as well, actually, that are reshaping the skills needs. For example, there are some skills that were really important a few times ago, and now things are changing. But as human beings, as leaders, you have to be able to even if there are some problems, you need the technical skills, but you should be able as well to take into consideration the human part, to bring humanity in the workplace, and not to take your decision only because of the profit, but to take into consideration the fact that people also are really important. I'm talking about that, for example, in the COVID-19 times, there were some companies who decided to, because they didn't, it was lockdown, and they thought they didn't need the many workers, and they proposed them to stop the contract, for example. But after the COVID-19, all of the good people, the really effective worker, were out of that company. And what the company has to start again, it means it impacts its reputation, because there are some people who really believe in the fairness of the company, and they thought the company valued them. And after that, when they lost their job, the reputation of the company wasn't good anymore. And people, even in the recruitment area, they were struggling to recruit new people, because in any times, even if actually we are in a lot of ambiguity, because there is a skill shortage in some area, and in others area the people are not able to find a job. And in amidst this kind of environment, what the leader should do, the leader should, for example, train the people inside the organization, value this person, these people, because these people are, even if they don't have the required skills, they should really put their interests in first place, and try to train them in order for them in tomorrow to be good in what should be done, and to have the required skills as well to to navigate the uncertainty of the coming years. I don't know
Yeah,
if it answered your question.
yeah. This mention all the aspects. So there's like one last questions we will take. It's on menti.com. What's your take on training employees on ethics and having a code like the APM has?
Sorry.
So the question is like, what's your take on training employees on ethics and having a code like the APM has, like working code? Yeah, like some organizations have code of conducts. So what's your take
Yes.
about training employees?
What is my take? What I think about it?
Yeah, on training employees on ethics and having a code of conduct in a company or in an organization.
That is really important, and I believe it is important, but sometimes it is not enough, because i I could see some companies with a great ethics, and if you read the code of ethics, you just want to join this kind of a company. But if you join them, you will see that it, what I say, what is written is not what is applied in the company. Even the leaders sometimes do not follow it, you know. So this is why the what is really important for my point of view is that the leader should embody the the humanness of the companies. We are talking about collaboration, we are talking about good communications, but sometimes there are some leaders, they even don't say hello to you. What in this kind of environment, they are saying all the good words, but they are not embodying the word they are talking about. That is what is really is, ethics is really important and to learn. But what is really important is a change in mindset, that leaders should understand that it is not only about the profit. Human beings also are important, because if there is no human, there is no profit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mounina, for this question and for very interesting session today and taking time out to answer almost all the questions. So thank you so much. So I will like to thanks to the audience who joined from the start of the session and connecting us till now. So thank you so much. Just a reminder that this session will be available on APM YouTube channel, which you can subscribe. And if you can miss any part, you can watch the YouTube video of this session. And the presentation slides will be available on the SlideShare, which you can access by visiting APM Southeast branch page on APM website. At the end, I will like to thanks all of our APM Southeast branch committee members who put their efforts in this event, and especially to the APM team as well. So thank you so much for today's session.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you, all of you, for
Thank
your
you.
insights. They are valuable.